Good afternoon. So I wanted to hop on here. I've never done a video like this before, so just bear with me. I'm probably going to say a lot, and I'm not a professional by any means. So I last week I had kind of had something that had been laid on my heart, and it's one of those things. It was like very apparent and very obvious that God was speaking to me and telling me something in my life. And like I said, I've never got on here before. I'm not trying to be a professional or preach to anyone, but I felt like, sometimes social media is such a cool way to reach out to people that you wouldn't typically be able to. And I know all the time I'm just like mindlessly scrolling through Facebook, and I'll happen to run across an article or a video or even a song or whatever it looks like that really like resonates with me and speaks to me. So I thought I'd hop on here and just kind of share with you what I felt like I needed to share, what I've kind of been laid on my heart. So last Monday, and as most of you know, if you follow my Facebook at all, that I am transitioning to stay home with my little boy Briggs. So I have done hospice for a few years now, and I'm kind of working at home a little bit still to help them out while they're trying to make sure they get the right fit for their company, because that's very important to them, which says a lot about them. So I'm kind of just helping them out at home as I can for a little bit longer. And last Monday I needed to go to the office and chart, do some filing, some different things like that, and just kind of talk to my boss and so forth. And I'm never alone, as most of you moms can probably relate. I always have my kiddo, so I get very little alone time. So I ran down there and I was on my way home. And if you know me, I love all sorts of music, typically like old country. But I like a little bit of everything. When I work out, I like a little bit of like hip hop, rap even. But since I've been a mom, I've tried to like tone it down a little bit and listen to like, more still old country and stuff. It's like go back to kind of like gospel or Christian music, because there's a lot to be learned from it. It's like a message in itself, and being a parent and a wife and a worker and a sister and a daughter is all very hard sometimes. So those little bit of like encouragement in songs sometimes can go a long way, and you don't even realize it. Well, last Monday was one of those days. I was driving home from being at the office by myself, and I've always been a big fan of Lauren Daigle, and she has a song called Rescue. Some of you watching this may have heard it, but it speaks such a thorough and deep message in the song. I can't be ignored. Like anytime I've ever listened to it, it always immediately like pulls me out of whatever I'm thinking, or if I'm talking or distracted or whatever, it brings me back in. And I hadn't heard it in a long time. I'll be honest. I'm not by myself a lot. I really don't listen to the radio when I am, because it's kind of like, oh, it's peace and quiet. So I was driving home and I just had one of those moments. I think I probably cried from Fredericktown all the way to, Park Hills to where I live. I just really could hear what God was speaking to me. And there's a lot of times in my life where I'm like, where are you, God? I'm not seeing any guidance, or I'm not feeling you. I'm like, I've got an empty cup. And so when I was driving, I heard that song, and I don't know if, for those who haven't, I've got it pulled up on my other phone. I'm just going to read this, just a few things. It says, I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. It says, I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS. Another part of the song, it says, there is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter. I'll be your armor. And then it says, I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. And I just played that song over and over. And the part that really stuck out to me, it says, you are not hidden. There's never been a moment that you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. You know, it continues to say, I hear the whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS. And I was just driving down the highway, and there's been so many times in my life where I'm like I said, you know, I'm like, God, where are you? I'm not hearing you. I'm not feeling you. Whether I'm like out of church or I'm not around like people who are encouraging me or lifting me up, or I'm going through just a spot in my life, which all of us have, right? You know, we're human and we go through hard things, and sometimes we just feel that way, like we're just alone. You know, even if we're surrounded by people or you do have that relationship with God, it's not uncommon for us just to feel like nobody's there, nobody cares. So anyways, I heard this song, and like I said, I was very emotional, and I could just really feel, I felt, you know, God's presence. I felt so many emotions in that moment, but it brought me back to something that the point of this 6 minutes in, you know, when I was younger in my early 20s, you know, I was going through a really hard time. I was very depressed and had a lot of anxiety. I did not have friendships really that built me up. They were very temporary. You know, it wasn't people who really had my back. I was going through awful transitioning between relationships in my personal life. I was working all the time. I was just going through, I was by myself, so I felt, but I was very independent. I was going through a lot of struggles that a lot of my friends weren't. I didn't have a lot of support financially, so I was trying to get myself through college, and I was working all the time, and I just was exhausted. I wasn't able to go to church because I worked 7 days a week. I mean, I was literally just barely scooting by. And I was making horrible decisions. You know, I was doing things that I knew better. I was raised in a great home. My dad preached a lot of my life. I had great Christian parents that often, you know, brought up the Bible and encouraged us to read the Bible and took us to church. And I mean, even my extended family, outside of my immediate family, all have relationships with God. I was grown up in a very great Christian family. So I always knew God was there, but unfortunately, like a lot of us, when we're walking with God, we tend to slip away or get distracted or whatever it looks like. And I have felt that way. I have felt hopeless. I have felt like not lovable, not I've too far gone. I cannot be forgiven. I was not just making these mistakes once. I was continuing to make them. And it wasn't even something that, like, everyone knew. It wasn't anything bad. You know, of course, we've all made mistakes, but it was just things that, like, I was making these poor choices, poor decisions. I had no real support group as far as friend-wise, definitely not relationship-wise. And really the only accountability partner I really had was my sister, you know, and of course I wasn't giving her all the information because I knew what I was doing and how I was feeling was wrong. And there was points in my life at that point in those early 20s. I mean, this wasn't like a couple months. I mean, this was years, you know, and I would circle back and I would really feel convicted and I'm like, okay, I'm fired up again. And then I would fall into a bad habit and let those demons kind of take over. And I failed so many times. I'm like, there is no way God is going to send me anything good, or forgive someone like me, basically, is how I ended up feeling once all this had transpired. And I just got to a point where, you know, I believed in God. I had a relationship with God. And of course, I wasn't sharing those things with people because you don't want to admit those things. It's hard enough admitting them to God, right? So I was just in a funk. And it was a funk that I never could get out of. I was never happy. And a lot of people don't even know this. You know, I may have people that are close to me watching this thinking, what the heck, you know? But I really just was going through an awful time. And I got to a point where I was so depressed. I was so down. I was barely hanging on. And I felt like this. You know, I felt like I wasn't worth fighting for. I've dug my grave. Now, you know, I've made my bed. I need to lay in it. And I'm going to have to just, you know, give up. And I listen to this song now. Thank God I have I truly have a relationship with God. I rededicated my life to Christ just a few years ago, not just a couple of years ago, about right when I was married and pregnant. And I decided I wanted to be different. I wanted to live different. And if that meant I didn't have a lot of friends, I just had a few good ones, or maybe I didn't even have that, or whatever, I was just ready to be a different person. I was, knew I was going to be bringing a human into the world soon, and I wanted to be better for them. But I also wanted to show them the kind of love that God really provides to us. And it's not a limited love. It's very unconditional. He is full of second, third, fourth, fifth chances, and no sin is too big for him. So, like I said, when I was reading these lyrics and I'm driving down the road, and I'm reading these, I'm just like, how lucky am I to have a relationship with God and that he feels this way about me? That's why she wrote this song. She's saying, I hear the whisper. God hears the whisper underneath our breath when we feel like nobody else is listening and nobody else cares. He cares. Right? He hears our struggles, whether we're airing out the dirty laundry or not. He knows them, right? He knows our demons. And then it says, I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true. I will rescue you. How comforting is that? That doesn't matter how bad we've sinned or fallen or gotten away from God. He's right there. He's coming back. He's coming to rescue us in the darkest times of our life. He says, there is no distance that cannot be covered. Doesn't matter how far gone you think you may be. You're not defenseless. It says, I'll be your shelter. I'll be your armor. And I just kept listening to that song over and over. And this is before, my mom ended up having a heart attack on Wednesday, not just one, but two. Of course, Monday, I didn't know any of that was going to transpire throughout the week. And even towards Thursday evening, when we were sure she was probably going to come home Friday and she was stable, I kept thinking about that song, and I was listening to it on repeat. Anytime I was in the shower, or Briggs was asleep, or I was working, I was playing that song. And I felt like I needed to share this with you all, for anyone that's watching, because the reality is, I know I'm not the only person out there that's felt that way. That's felt like I'm too far gone, that God's finished with me, he's not hearing me, I'm alone, I'm hurting. And whether you're like me, who was trying to let go of some hurt from my past, my childhood, or whatever it may be, but also most of the hurt I had done myself. I was self-sabotaging myself. And I felt like I couldn't be forgiven, but I was wrong, and whether you're doing that or you're struggling with a hurt that's maybe still going on in your life, or you're feeling abandoned by people you love, or marriage or relationship, friendship, whatever it looks like, just know that God's not finished. He will come to your rescue. You just have to be willing to listen. God has spoken to me many a times, and I wasn't hearing anything because I wasn't listening. I didn't even want to hear, because I had already had it made up in my mind. I was at the bottom of the barrel, and there was no getting back to the top. But that's not how God's love works. Thank God for that. He, like I said, he's a God of many chances, and he gives us unconditional love. There's no limit. So it doesn't matter how far you feel you've went away, or if you feel like you're like, I'm just not lovable. I've made too many mistakes. You're wrong. Talks about like all sins are equal. We all are humans. We're flawed individuals. So I hope this brings some encouragement to somebody that's watching. I know it's a lot of words. I'm a talker, so of course I knew this wasn't going to be short, but, just know that God still loves you. You're needed for his kingdom. He will use you if you let him. He will speak to you if you listen and slow down. I've had a tattoo since I was 17 years old. My mom went and signed for me, and I had thought about it, and she was agreeable to it. And I got the words "be still" on my arm, on my left forearm. I've got it right here. Still the original. I haven't got it touched up or anything. And it's still, I still don't regret it. I was a decade ago, and I still feel I feel it and I love the meaning of it. And it's a good reminder often, just to be still and know that He's God and He's handling things and He loves me, and He loves you. And He's not finished. He's just not. It doesn't matter if it's your darkest night, He'll send a whole army for you because that's how big His love is. So, like I said, if you're feeling hurt or abandoned or sadness or depression or whatever it may be, and you think, He doesn't need somebody like me, or I'm too far gone, you're not. So I hope this was, like I said, I hope this was encouraging to somebody that's watching this. Doesn't matter, like I said, if you're walking with God and you have that relationship with God, we're human and we're flawed, and sometimes we get off the right path. And like I said, thank goodness He's a God of many chances, because I've used many a chances, and I'm glad that He still needs me and is using me for His kingdom. And I hope as the years pass that He only uses me more, and I'm more open to listen and learning, and that I grow my relationship with Him. So again, thanks for listening. I'm not trying to be a professional. This may be rough to have to sit and listen through this, but like I said, and of course I'm always here if you want to reach out to talk. I'm a social worker, and even though I'm not going to be practicing, I love helping people and talking to people, and especially I may not have all the answers, but I definitely am happy to listen, or pray for you or pray with you. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. It's still early in the week, and a good rest of your day. Thanks for listening.